Hello friends, and welcome to my May wrap-up video so I can show you what I read this month and how I felt about the books that I did actually read this month. I need to premise this video by saying I generally I rate books pretty high, like 3, 4, 5 stars, so I am a high rater. 5 stars, it has to like really make me feel something, but a lot of my books will get 4 stars because I read a lot of books that I enjoy. Okay, so the first book that I read in May was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I rated this book 5 stars on Goodreads. I am obsessed. In my top 10 favorites, an introduction video I just filmed, I talk about how this is in my top 10 favorites now, and I thought I read it last month, but I just read it at the very beginning of this month. So I did read Ready Player One this month. If you want to hear me talk more about why I love Ready Player One, you can see that in like my favorites video, but I think the nostalgia of the 80s in this and the like quest setup of the plot is just like really amazing, and it had me hooked from the prologue. So Ready Player One is the first book I read this month, and I absolutely adored it. The second book I read this month was Ready Player Two by Ernest Cline. I really go get this book because I loved Ready Player One so much, but I will say I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. It was still really good, and this nostalgia was still there, the quest style was still there, but it wasn't as good as Ready Player One, and so like I really couldn't like give it that. I also didn't really love the way that it ended. I feel like the way that they ended things was a little like, it just didn't feel right, but for the most part, this book was still really good, and I still enjoyed it, kind of like for the same reasons that I enjoyed Ready Player One. The third book I read in May was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I rated this 5 stars as well. I really enjoyed this book. It was kind of sad, but also not completely sad at the same time. I thought it was such a good story. So it's about this girl who dies, and she goes to the Midnight Library where she can basically live all of the potential lives she could have had, and basically you're just picking a regret you had and changing it and see like here's what your life would have been, and if you're happy then you can stay in that life. And so it's her journey through the Midnight Library trying to figure out, you know, what went wrong in her life that she could have changed that maybe would have made her more happy. It has a lot of good lessons to maybe teach. The whole like idea of the story I thought was really lovely, and it was honestly kind of cute. For something about death, it was a really good book, so I would recommend The Midnight Library. Alright, so the next book that I actually read in May was Firekeepers Daughter by Angeline Bowley. This book was really good. I rated it 4 stars again. Basically, it just follows this girl on her like journey, kind of dealing with being half Native American, half like her mother is from the like rich French part of this area in Michigan, and kind of like wanting to be accepted but not fully having that acceptance, while she is kind of investigating some things that are happening. It is a thriller, so, and it's really kind of hard to explain without giving away what the book is about, because like the first 100 pages are just kind of setting things up for you, and then it gets into it. I will say that I gave it 4 stars because it was slow for me to read. It took me a while to get into it, but like the last 200 pages of it, I literally could not put it down. But it was really nice because I have a friend who lives in this area of Michigan, so like when I didn't understand like how things were pronounced, he told me. I really enjoyed this book, but I would encourage you to check out a review from someone who, you know, is an Own Voices reviewer. They'll be able to give you a more accurate, like, I guess, review of this book, but for me, I did really enjoy it. Okay, so next I read Harry Potter and the HalfBlood Prince by J.K. Rowling. So I read like the first 4 books of these a while ago, and last month I finally finished Order of the Phoenix. I had been like 100 pages into Order of the Phoenix for like probably a year, and so this month I did read HalfBlood Prince. I rated this book 4 stars once again. Probably would have been 5 if I had not seen all of the movies before I read the books, because it was sad, but it was like I knew it was going to happen, so I wasn't like super depressed. It didn't like hit me as hard as it could have, or as hard as like the movies hit me when I watched the movies for the first time, but it was still really good, and I'm just trying to get through, having said I've read all the Harry Potter books. books. So I did read Harry Potter this month. Alright, so next I read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This book was so good, and I did, like, where I didn't expect it to be. I rated this book 5 stars. I have like set a goal for myself that I want to start reading more classics. I think next month I'm going to read Pride and Prejudice. I also read Brave New World last month, and so this month I read The Picture of Dorian Gray. I think I literally picked this up at like 6 o'clock at night and finished it by like 3 o'clock the next day. It was so good. I really liked the commentary on like beauty and the corruption of innocence, and it was just also an easy read for a classic. I also kind of liked the gothic feel in it, and you know, we all know it's about this man who puts his soul into a painting, and so as he stays young and beautiful, the painting gets ugly and kind of represents his soul. I was actually reading this in public, and towards the end things start getting crazy, and I literally audibly out loud was like gasping and just realizing that no one around me realized what was happening, and I was just like having a little freak out moment because it was wild. So if you want to also get into like these kinds of books, The Picture of Dorian Gray was really good. I really enjoyed it. After Picture of Dorian Gray, I had read Picture of Dorian Gray to wait so that I could read this book with my friend, and that book is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I've talked about this a lot. It was in my 5-star anticipated reads, so I've been talking about this book a lot, but I absolutely loved it. I rated it 5 stars. I love Victor Vale. I love the academia, morally gray vibes that this book gives, and if you want to hear me talk about it, I have 2 whole videos in which I ramble about why I think I love this book and how much I do like this book. So I did give this 5 stars, and it was so good. I love Victor Vale, and the whole premise of the like story was amazing. I just loved it. Okay, so the next book I read was because after I finished Vicious, all I wanted to do was go get Vengeful. So I went to my Barnes & Noble. Alright, mind you, I was already having a rough time that day, already trying not to cry. I get to Barnes & Noble, I go back to that section, and on the little V.E. Schwab shelf, there was probably 10 copies of the Dark Shades of Magic trilogy, a couple of Vicious copies, and not a single Vengeful. So then I was really depressed, and I immediately put it in an Amazon cart and ordered it. So I had to wait for it to come in. So I tried to find 2 books that I thought I could read really quickly before Vengeful showed up. And the first one is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is actually about to be a movie with Lucy Hale, and I'm pretty excited about it. Basically, I also talked about this in my last video, the book tropes video, but it's 2 co-workers who hate each other, but turns out they don't really hate each other. It's very much so enemies to lovers. I rated it 5 stars because I don't read a lot of like just plain romance. I like fantasy with romance, but this book, I read it so quick, and it was so good, and it was cute and sweet, and it made me kind of feel like happy in a way that like romance hasn't made me feel happy before in a long time, and it was so sweet, but also enemies to lovers. So it was pretty good. I rated it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think it was just for the experience that it gave me, not necessarily because it's like a literary masterpiece, but it was pretty good. I liked it, and I will definitely be going to see the movie. So I rated The Hating Game 5 stars. Then after I finished The Hating Game and I had nothing to do, I literally sat down and read this in like less than an hour, and it is How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. I read the Cruel Prince trilogy last month, I think, and I really didn't even like the first Cruel Prince, but then I did like Wicked King and Queen of Nothing, and so I have been looking for this book, but this book is kind of expensive compared to the other ones, and Target had it for 20% off, so I had to snatch it up, and it was cute. I liked the background story of one Cardan as a child, but also giving us a little bit more of Cardan and Jude, and seeing how things have changed since the books left off. And so this was a cute little read. I really did think that it made the trilogy better. It enriched it. So, and the illustrations in this are beautiful. Like, let me show you. Like, we've got horses, or like they're flying on their little ragweed steeds. Look at Cardan and Jude. Cardan and Jude. And it's like that throughout the whole book. Like there's little illustrations in it as well. And so it's really cute. Also, let me just say, I love the fact that every single one of her books have beautiful, like, hardcovers. And, like, if you take the dust jacket off, it's always, like, a nice little surprise. So, I did rate this 3 stars because it was good. Like, it enriched the story, but it wasn't, like, a full book. It's only, like, 170 pages. So, this was, like, a small little side book, so I didn't feel like it deserved a, like, higher rating because it wasn't, like, a full book. There was no, like, full story aspect of it, but it was cute, and it had lots of little stories, so I gave it 3 stars. I just felt like that was the most I could give it. Alright, and the last one I'm going to talk about is Vengeful by V. Schwab. Okay, let me say, as you can tell, I'm just not far into it. But today that I'm filming this is May 29th. I know for a fact by June 1st this book will be done. I will probably read a very big chunk of it tonight, and by tomorrow I'll probably have finished it. So I will let you know later at some point on either my TikTok, probably my Instagram, how I felt about this book. I already know it's not going to be 5 stars because it's already been harder for me to get into than Vicious, but I am reading Vengeful. It's the follow-up to Vicious. I think it just has a lot of new characters and there's not a lot of plot. Like nothing's really happened. So I don't think it'll be 5 stars, maybe 4 stars. I don't think it'll be as low as 3 because I still really liked these. I'm thinking it will end up being 4 stars, but we'll see if anything happens to change my mind. So I just want to include this because technically May is not over yet, and I know I will have this finished before May is over, so I felt like it deserved its moment as well. Thank you for watching my May wrap up. If you've read any of these books, let me know, and let me know how you felt about them. I would love to talk about it with you guys. If you want to see more, you can go over to my Instagram. I post on there, if not every day, every other day during the week, and I also casually film TikToks. So if you want to see more about how I like books or how I feel about certain things, definitely go over there because I talk a little bit more about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me and seeing what I've read, and I would love to hear what you read this month. So thanks for watching. Bye.